portrait session pricing, keeping your photo printer running perfectly, and when to upgrade it. Hey everyone, welcome to Keep Shooting Monday, number 132. My name is Greg Cazillo from Cazillo.com. Before we get into the portrait session information, the pricing, and into some of the questions that I had this week, I thought I'd talk a little bit about my computer upgrades that are finally finished. I upgraded my my older, smaller RAID that was only 2 drives and made up like 380 gigs, I think was the size. Now I have 4 2 terabyte drives, and so I have a total of a RAID 5 setup with a total of 4 terabytes of space, and then 2 other backups that are here in the office, and then another one that's off site. So what's happening is I have everything set up working. I finally pushed all the files over, working really smooth. If you do have any questions about that, please let me know. I'll gladly answer any of those computer questions to the best of my knowledge. If it's something super technical, I'll do my best to find someone else that can help you to get that answered. I also moved Lightroom over to an SSD, and what a huge difference in browsing and using it and running Lightroom, exporting photos. Across the board, it has made a huge difference. I also have a crazy number of photos. I actually forget how many photos that I have in my catalog. 193,290 pictures in my catalog. So that's a lot of images. The catalog itself is almost 4 gigs. So it's a really huge, there's a lot of data in there. The next thing that I think I'm going to do is actually move the cache, the Lightroom cache, over to another drive again. And I think that's going to help, because right now that cache is on the same one as the catalog file, which means that Lightroom is going to be accessing the catalog and those cache files at the same time from the same drive, which is not optimal. And also moving it off of my the operating system drive is also big. So the computer basically is able to access and read multiple sources at one time. So it's going to access the program files for the actual installed programs from one drive. It's going to access the catalog from another drive. Eventually, I'm going to move those cache over to another SSD, and then the photos themselves are on another drive, which is actually that RAID 5 that I had just set up. So allowing that computer to access from all those 4 or potentially 5 different locations for all the things that it needs to do is going to allow for super amount of speed and make a big difference. So if you really need the speed, if you're doing a lot of processing, I strongly suggest looking at separating and adding additional drives rather than trying to push and run everything from that single drive all the time. Tom posted on the forum first about upgrading his R2000. When you're upgrading a printer, the big thing is how many generations old is it? And that R2000 is only 1 generation old. It was replaced by, I believe, the P600, maybe it was the P400, I forget which one it was. Anyway, one of those two replaced it. So it's only 1 generation old. It still has relatively new inks. It's still very widely supported and used. And so it's Kathy actually still uses, as the phone rings, Kathy actually still uses hers on a regular basis. The one that Epson had sent over as a demo, I sent over to her, and she's been using it, and she has had great luck with it. If it's only 1 generation old, unless there's something that you really need, for example, if you need, say, a roll paper, you need more robust roll paper handling, or you print a lot of fine art media that is heavier. Maybe you need the front loading. It'll be easier to use the front loading rather than the rear loading of an R2000 or a 3880. That might be a good compelling reason. Or if you needed to be able to print larger prints, if you needed the 22-inch width rather than only the 13-inch width of the R2000, that would be another compelling reason for you to upgrade. or of course, if it's 2 generations old. If you ran a lot of prints through it, and you know, it might be time for you to step up. Put it out there, sell it. Same with your camera bodies and a lot of other equipment. You know, your lenses, they're going to last a long time, but maybe it's time to upgrade those camera bodies when they're 2 generations old. You know, you might not need to step up every one, but every other one might be a good time to do that. So that might be another good method and a thought process. Put it on Craigslist, put it on eBay, sell the old one, and then pick up a new one for yourself so that you have it. Tom was saying that he also had some issues with his R2000. So after he would print like 3 or 4 or 5 prints, then it would start to clog up. That tells me that the printer probably has a lot of dust in it, inside of it itself, especially since the way he describes it, he uses it and prints often. So he probably has a lot of dust in it. He said that he did not close it up and turn it off the way Epson recommends. Because you always want to close a printer, turn it off when you're not using it, even if it's every day, because it needs to run certain checks and health things in when it turns on. That's actually a great feature of some of the newer printers. They automatically turn themselves off. They don't automatically close up, which keeps the dust out of them, but it will give you some a little bit of protection by manually closing those lids. So that's a good thing. But I think what's happening with Tom's is after he runs a couple of prints, that it's actually kicking up some dust that's inside of the printer, and then it's getting into those heads and clogging the heads. And so I have a feeling that might be one of the things, and I told him to try and check and clean out the inside of that printer just in case, see if there's anything in there. You also always want to be cleaning out the area where you're loading paper. Run a damp cloth, lint-free cloth in the back there, just to see if you can catch anything. If it is settled on the inside, that might require some additional cleaning functions. I don't know that Epson would recommend running like a can of air in there. I probably would say they would not. But at your own risk, you might try that. That's my suggestion. That is not something that Epson ever told me that would be good or bad. I'll try to get that question answered and see what would happen. So there was also a question this week about how much would you charge for a portrait session. He had commented actually on one of my dog videos, my dog portrait videos or pet portrait videos. But the question, and I've answered this a lot of times, and my answer probably isn't going to change today, but it never hurts to rehash it. So the main thing is making, number one, thinking about how much you need to be making. Are you part-time or are you full-time? So you need to start at the total amount of money that you need to make in a month to pay all of your bills and to live well. So we'll say you're doing it on a full-time basis. So say you need to make $2,500 a month or $3,000 a month, and your goal is to do, say, 10 portrait sessions. And inside of those 10 portrait sessions, then you need to be making $250 from each session on average. And then so you want to break that all the way back down to figure out what you think you should be making. Obviously, or you need to charge, I should say, for that individual session. Typically, you want to do a session fee. The other way of doing it, if you don't want to do the session fee, is a first print fee. So that first print is a lot more expensive than others. I also strongly suggest not doing just the shoot and throw it on a CD and here you go, have a nice day kind of shoot. Spend the time, be more of a boutique, have some pride in your work, and spend the time to sit down with them, go over the prints, go over some options, invest in a photo printer, or if you don't want to do that, send your prints out to a good lab like Miller's Professional Imaging or mpix.com to get some good prints made and then be able to sell them and basically give them that great final product. For my portrait sessions, I typically will give them 1 or 2 or maybe 5 images on a digital if they really want it, if they insist on it. But other than that, I prefer to just give them prints. I don't send them out in a photo gallery, anything like that, for them to be able to view or to take a look at. They need to come to the studio in order to look at them. It just the way that I do it and the way that I prefer to do it and the way that has worked well for me. Typically, the newer photographers are just gonna, throw them on a CD and send them on their way and just collect their little bit of money. And you don't get that return, anymore. You don't get that, the hanging on the wall. You don't make more money from prints or from framing or from editing or from any of those things. So it's all stuff you need to think about. Um, as far as back to the pricing idea, you got to think about what your area is, the amount of money that people are making. Obviously, if you're in New York or you're in LA or you're in, Chicago or some of the bigger cities, you're going to be making more money than you are, say, in a rural area that might be quite as affluent. So, you kind of need to put all those things together and figure it out and maybe see what other people are charging. That's always been something that has been suggested, but at the same time, there's always the super high-end scale that is able to charge whatever they want to charge, and then there's also the new guys that are, just charging $50 and that's it. So there's always that super large range, and no matter what, you're going to get what you pay for. If you're putting out good work and the people are super happy with it, then don't be afraid to charge the right amount of money and to actually make money on it and to basically make a living. And if someone questions it, say, hey, I've got to make a living on it, and that's what I charge. Simple as that. So hopefully this helps for you guys to set that up, just to kind of review that, figure out what the total amount of money is you need to be making every month, break it down by the number of shoots you're going to be doing every month, and then that'll give you an idea of how much you need to make per client. And once you know per client, then you can, or per job, whatever it is, then you can start breaking it down and figure out how much to actually charge for a session fee or for prints or for any of those things. So hopefully that helps you guys. I think that is it for Keep Shooting Monday number 132. If you have additional photography questions, business questions, I would love to answer them. Thanks, guys. Keep shooting. See you.